Gabriel, and hello viewers of Gabriel Traveler. My name is Harry. I'm currently in Taiwan. Originally I was supposed to go to the Philippines, but as soon as I got to the Philippines they announced that the country was going to be closed down. Originally I thought it was going to be just Manila, so I was like, oh, I'll keep going to El Nido. And then I found out every province is going to be closed. I ended up changing my plans, and it took 20 hours to fly to the Philippines in total. I got to spend 18 hours there. Now, here I am, traveling around Taiwan. This is the Dragon Tiger Pagoda in Kaohsiung, southern Taiwan. A couple of the things I've noticed here is people are a little apprehensive towards Americans, especially now that America, as of today, has the most cases in the world. I've had Airbnbs cancel on me, gyms refuse to let me go in. Today, here in Kaohsiung, I went into one and they had to kind of discuss it among management, and they said they'd allow me to do it as long as I wore a mask. So I got to lift and look like Bane from Dark Knight Rises. It's a lot better here than in America at the moment, so I'm currently planning on trying to stay here as long as possible. It's a 90-day tourist visa. The government this week decided that they were going to give a 30-day grace period on top of that. However, I do have to go back to work at some point, so hopefully I'm just going to stick it out here as long as possible, because everything here seems to be business as normal, right? Kids are watching me film. People are out on the streets. I can still get the essentials like bubble tea and chocolate milk. So if you want to follow along with me on my adventures in Taiwan, go ahead and follow me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is called Harry X Hemispheres. Take it easy, keep that PMA.
Hello, we are Carol and Chris from Jumping Places. We are here in El Nido, and we arrived in the Philippines on the 26th of February.
We came to El Nido on the 14th of March. Before that we were on an island called North Gigante Island, and that's when the president announced that he was going to be locking down Manila, and there were also rumors that they would be locking down all of the islands. So we had to make a quick decision about where we was going to go. Also, that automatically cancelled our flight to Portugal. We were going to go to Portugal from Manila on the 26th of March, so that was already cancelled, and then we had to pretty much make the decision whether we were going to try and leave the country or find a better place to stay here.
I am Brazilian and Chris is from England, but he doesn't have any family in like close family in England. His parents live in Portugal, but the borders in Portugal were closed, and in Brazil the situation is not good and it's getting worse, and also the flights were very expensive. So
we decided to come here to El Nido because at the time there was 0 cases, and I think even now there's only been 1 reported case, and that's in Palawan, the island. So in El Nido there is still no cases at all, so still seems like a good decision to come here. And we just checked into a resort where we're comfortable. It has a swimming pool, so even though we're not really allowed to go outside, we can still use the pool in the resort. So that's where we're at right now, and yeah, we're documenting it on our channel if anyone's interested in seeing it, and hopefully we made the right decision.
Hey Gabriel, thank you for having me, and I hope everybody else is doing well, staying at home, staying safe, and getting through this. I know it's a really hard time for all of us, and I just wanted to share with you my experience in early March. I was actually traveling in Bhutan. Bhutan is a small country up in the Himalayas between India and China. I was there, I was gonna do a 10-day trip, and the trip got cut short. And basically I arrived on the 5th. The 5th, everything was perfect. There was 0 cases in Bhutan, and there was like 2 cases in southern India, very low cases, so everything looked fine. The pandemic hadn't become what it is today. Obviously, right now I'm shooting this is like the last day of March. Yeah, March 31st. So I woke up the first day, everything was fine. Next day I woke up March 6th and everything went upside down. Bhutan had their first case, like a 79-year-old American gentleman. And obviously he's a foreigner, so they cut off flights for foreigners coming into the country, and then our trip got cut because we could only go to the 3 places that he went to. Couldn't go deeper into the country where I was going more central. So we had to reorganize the trip, and then everything flipped. Basically everything was closed. Most places were closed, all the markets were closed. People were just scared, and they look at you the foreigner sort of like the enemy, you know, they don't want to be around you, which is, it's crazy to feel that. I've never felt it in my life, just the level of fear. I decided, you know, let's continue the trip. I mean, it's fine, like everything was fine in America so far, you know, I mean, a few cases, but nothing crazy yet. But then March 11th, in the middle of the night, I started getting text from my wife that, you know, India was closing the border to foreigners. They already closed it to certain countries, but they were closing it completely to foreigners. And that was my only way home. I had to fly to India on the 15th and then connect 2 days later to go home. So I was like, you know, what do I do? And then the same exact time, America shut down all flights from Europe. Obviously, if you're an American, you can go home, but you'd have to try to get on a flight home. And I thought, you know, maybe this is best idea for me to get home as fast as possible. So what I did was, you know, obviously I was working with my Bhutan. They switched my flight, got me the first flight out the next morning before India closed their border to foreigners, like literally an hour late, but they were, you know, fine with it. When I flew into India, they asked me everything, you know, where was I? They checked every single stamp of my passport to make sure I wasn't in China. So before that, I tried to change my flight with Qatar Airways, couldn't change it, so I literally had to just buy a one-way ticket, bought a one-way ticket home. Since then, I've been in basically self-isolation. People are calling it quarantine, but I mean, if you're with your family and stuff at home, I mean, it's more like self-isolation. We're not going out, we're socially distancing ourselves. I personally haven't left home in about 17 days, 18 days. I got here the 14th, and I haven't really left home. I mean, I left twice to fill up gas, but with my mask, right? Always got my mask on. This is actually a really good mask if you guys want to get one. It's called Respro, really amazing. Got a glove on like every time I can. I mean, I go out, always have a glove on and a hand sanitizer. You know, we're staying home. We're not really doing anything. It's just me, my wife, and my kids. Hope everybody's doing well. You know, stay safe, stay home, and let's fight this together.
Hi, we're Lee and Mandy.
We're the Frugal Travellers, and welcome to our lovely Airbnb apartment in Krakow, Poland.
We've been on the road for 2.5 years. We're long-term travellers. This year we've been going through Eastern Europe, slowly.
We were in Ukraine and we'd planned to come back and surprise a friend in Krakow for her 40th birthday.
We got to Krakow on the 11th of March, or the 12th of March. They announced they were going to close the schools and the museums and things like that in Poland.
Yeah, so then our friends arrived on the 13th and we get a text from them, from the taxi, saying they're closing the airports.
They're closing the borders. Flew back on the 16th on the last flight back to the UK.
So fortunate. But then we had to make a decision.
What were we going to do? Where were we going to stay?
Yeah, because, you know, we've got family in the UK, Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, I didn't want to go back to the UK. I've got aging parents there and they're self-isolating.
And we thought about, you know, flying back to the Southern Hemisphere, and there's a lot of airports to cover. So we thought it would be best, be safest if we just stay here.
In Poland. Yeah, it's really nice. We like it in Krakow.
Yes.
It's a beautiful city.
We've been to like 30 countries in the past 2.5 years, and this is probably the one we feel most comfortable in.
Yeah,
so
and the good thing is things are well organised here. The government are doing the right thing with coronavirus, we think.
The supermarkets are so well stocked, like this.
Yeah,
it's been brilliant.
There's no panic buy-in or anything like that.
No, because we've had to like start from scratch. You know, we're backpackers. We live out of a backpack, but restaurants are all closed, everything like that. So we've decided we've got our Airbnb apartment for a month, and we've decided to stock up with enough food for between, say, 2 weeks and 4 weeks.
And we're going to stay here and self-isolate.
Yes.
We've decided to do the responsible thing. We don't want to be going out and helping spread this thing around, so we're going to stay indoors. We're going to create a bit of content. We're going to watch a bit of Netflix.
Watch a lot of Netflix. So we hope everyone watching this has a roof over their head and food in the cupboards, and that they're safe.
Stay at home, be safe, and hopefully when this is all over, we can all go travelling again.
Okay, so I was actually traveling around Pakistan during, let's start over. Okay, so when I got into Pakistan, the situation was kind of serious already, but still very much under control. There were a lot of cases in, for example, Europe and stuff, but hardly any in I don't know, India, Pakistan, you know, those kind of countries. And so I thought everything probably was okay. I mean, Europe had not shut their borders yet. I mean, no country really has by then, maybe only China. And so I was traveling around the country and everything was kind of chill. But then at some point, I think 5 days into my trip, things became super rough. So every single day there would be like these huge new announcements, you know, like, I don't know, all of Europe shutting their borders or a certain country shutting off all of their airports and everything. And so it felt like every single day there was some huge new announcement that, you know, most people definitely didn't expect at that point. Because I mean, before I went there, everything was still very, very, very relaxed, I think. I was still going on with the trip, more or less. But it became a lot more complicated, you know? So like, for example, then in Pakistan, they closed off all the airports except for 3 major ones. The buses wouldn't take people up to the mountains anymore. And I mean, there were all of these restrictions, which I think is great. I mean, that's what the world should be doing. And you know, I was very happy it was happening. The only problem was that I was supposed to spend 14 days in Pakistan. But by the time I was there for like a week or 8 days or whatever, it became so clear that literally the whole world is shutting down. Pakistan might be shutting down very, very soon too. And I was at a risk of actually getting stuck in Pakistan for potentially months. Because, I mean, most of the airlines stopped their flights. I couldn't get back to Europe. You know what I mean? Like there were no other countries where I could go and stuff. You know, it was a bit of a stressful period, and so I was thinking of what to do really. But then I decided to simply cancel all my plans. Go to the airport on day 10, I think. So I just ran to the airport, got you know, the soonest flight I could get to Thailand, because Thailand by then seemed to be still pretty much, you know, the only country where I could still get in Southeast Asia and stuff. So I just flew as fast as I could there. And I mean, what was really funny is when I went to the airport in Pakistan, they spent literally 2 hours trying to reach the immigration authorities in Thailand, asking whether I can go there and stuff. My only problem with that was that if they wouldn't let me on that flight to Thailand, there's literally nowhere else I could have gone. And then, you know, I would definitely have been stuck in Pakistan 100%. But either way, after those 2 hours or whatever, or an hour and a half, they finally let me go. And I was super, super, super happy. Made it to Thailand literally, I think 4 days before this country shut its borders as well. So I got incredibly lucky. And now at this point, I'm actually stuck in Thailand. I'm not sure for how long, maybe 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, maybe even more. But to be completely honest, you know, this seems to be like a paradise on earth place to get stuck in during the coronavirus, because yeah, obviously the country's taking precautions, which is once again very good, but you know, the weather is amazing, the views are great, I can see palm trees all around me, and the food is awesome, and everyone's super kind, and it's not too expensive, you know. So I feel incredibly grateful and lucky to be stuck here as opposed to, I don't know, in quite a few other places around the world. That's my story. I'm not really sure what's gonna happen. Hope I won't be here for, I don't know, half a year or something, you know, but I guess time will tell. One more thing I really wanted to say to everyone watching this wonderful video is that Gabriel Traveler is the coolest guy on YouTube, hands down. So a lot of my friends and my YouTube friends and stuff, we are all total fanboys of Gabriel. Because I mean, he's been doing this, he's been traveling full time, which is something that we're doing now, but he's been doing it for longer than, you know, all of us have been alive, basically, you know. Like, I've been traveling the world for 7 years full time, and most people think, oh, that's great. But Gabriel's been doing this for what, 28, 29 years, which is insane. I mean, he's almost the same age with my mom, maybe 1 year younger, but you know, my mom is not traveling to Iraq, if you know what I mean. So yes, thank you guys so much for supporting Gabriel, for you know, following what he does. He's such a great inspiration for me and so many people around the world, thousands. And yeah, just wanted to say that, Gabriel, we love you. We'll always be here for you. And thanks for doing everything that you are doing. Greetings from Thailand.
Hello, Gabriel. I'm Diego from Argentina. I got stuck in Buenos Aires while I was searching for my father, that he had an emergency surgical operation. I managed to get him on a plane after long hours of fighting at Aerolíneas Argentinas, and I got stuck at Buenos Aires. The president did a quarantine, and the hotel, they kicked me out. It was very hard to find a place to stay, but luckily I made it back home, and before they closed the domestic flights to my province. Thank you very much. I hope you are doing okay. Love your videos.
Hi Gabriel, my name's Stacy. I am a traveler from Nanaimo, BC, and this is my story. So on March 9th, I was scheduled to leave for a whirlwind tour of Prague, Krakow, and Kiev. At this time, there was no way to change my flight. They weren't offering any refunds or rebookings. And the advice given was to wash your hands. So on the plane I went. By the time I got into Prague, it was the night of the 11th. I woke up on the 12th, things had changed drastically. All the tourist attractions were closed, squares were empty, but I tried to make the best of it and just wandered around the city. By the time I was to leave there on the 13th, things had changed a little bit. There was talk of the border being closed, more restrictions put in place with restaurants. So I thought it was a good thing that I was going to Poland because I hadn't really heard anything except for that the museums were closed, which was expected at this point. And it was really expensive to go home because, again, nothing was being offered to change flights. So on the 13th, I showed up at the Prague train station to get a train, then a bus to Krakow. And I was told I was getting one of the last ways out trains into Poland, which I thought was because they were closing the Prague or the Czech border. We get to the Polish border and we were stopped by the military. They came on the bus and all of our temperatures were taken. Then we moved on. I was in Krakow for about an hour and a half. This was mid-afternoon, early evening when we found out the border was closing the next day and you better get the hell out. I had thought something may be up, so I booked a flight for London on the 15th. But this was not going to do because midnight on the 15th, going into midnight on the 15th, everything was going to be closed. So the next morning, because I couldn't get a hold of the airlines, I went to the airlines that I had flights booked. So the Wizz Air flight to London. Wizz Air wasn't even at the airport. They were behind doors and said there was nothing they could do for me. I was booked on a Ryanair flight into Ukraine. They said the best thing they could do for me was to get me to Kherson, Ukraine, because they could only fly me into the country I was supposed to go to. Kherson is right on the border with Crimea. We're not allowed to go there, so this was a no-go. So my only option was to spend $1,000 with LOT and buy a ticket to Warsaw and then into London. So I did this. Again, there was military on the plane taking our temperatures. Things started to get harried at home. We were called home, but there was no way to get home for less than $3,000 at this point. So the night of the 14th, I stayed in London. I stayed there for the 15th. Again, hearing news from home, like get home, get home, get home. Luckily, I woke up at 3 a.m. on the 16th, found an $800 flight to London, leaving that morning at 9. So I got my butt out of bed and got myself to Heathrow. Flights were packed, but at least I got home for $800. It was a whirlwind and it got scary at times. I didn't know if I was going to get home, but at least now I am safe at home. I am day 10 now of isolation and ready to go back to work as a nurse. Thank you. Bye.
Hi Gabe, I'm Becky and my husband and I have been watching you for several months now as we planned our trip of a lifetime that we were supposed to fly there yesterday. The unicorn stopped that and ruined our plans. We've been planning for 9 months. That's how we found you and Trent and Allie and several other vloggers that we found on YouTube. We were supposed to be going to trip of a lifetime to Peru and Machu Picchu. We at least were able to reschedule and we will be going November 1st, but we're just so bummed that after all the planning and getting ready and the suitcases were packed when they closed the border. You stay safe where you're at and stay healthy, and we look forward to all your future travels and adventures.
Hi, my name's Sean. I'm from England. We went to Malta on the 8th to the 15th of March. Initially things were okay, but later in the week we noticed bars and restaurants closing down. The Malta Prime Minister, as of 1 PM on Friday the 13th of March, announced that people were going to be put into quarantine if they arrived after that time. I noticed personally people in the hotel being locked down and warned that if they went out of the room they were going to be quarantined. We got the last flights out of Malta on Sunday the 15th of March. And the last flights were the Wednesday after. The situation there now is in full lockdown.
It's Effie from Montreal, Canada. We were in Malaysia for We were supposed to be there for 5 weeks, but then after we found out this, we cut our trip short. We couldn't get through to Air Canada, so we ended up having to buy new tickets to go back to Montreal. It was very stressful, and it took us about, I'd say, 16 hours to try to get a ticket because a lot of flights were booked. So we flew from Kuala Lumpur to Tokyo and then Tokyo back to Montreal.
Hello, my name is Paul Hart and I'm from Northern Ireland. My story begins in Malana village in the Indian Himalayas. At the 16th of March, I arrived there the very next night. I get a text saying all my flights have been cancelled to get me back home, so I decided to stay another night just to play it out, to see what happens, but I started getting anxious. I left for Delhi on a sleeper bus, 12 hours. Next night, get there, buy my ticket. I only had 350 bucks left in my account. Used that 300 to buy the ticket home. The other 50 for another ticket. Bus tickets. After all that, I get to Dubai. I wonder if I needed a transit visa, which I didn't. I was very lucky. And then to London, and then after that fly to Northern Ireland, where I'm back home. So lucky to be. I am the luckiest man alive. Thank you, that's my story.